All right, we're in Parashat Vaeira. I know I sound like a broken record. However, this Sunday, everybody is welcome for a Achnasat Sefer Torah celebration for our new Sefer Torah that somebody donated to our Yeshiva. The Davido family had donated that, so which is very kind of them. 7 o'clock here. I have big simcha, big celebration, and everybody is welcome. Parashat Vaeira, as Moshe told as HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, Lev Paro Kaved. The heart of Paro is heavy. However, we're gonna and today, especially on this parasha, we're gonna have a little Hebrew words playing on Hebrew words, so we try to explain it. However, in Hebrew, the word Kaved is not only heavy, yea, heavy is my brother, is also liver, right? Jigar, right? So it's not only liver, it's not only kaved, it's also liver. Chazal told us that Paro had a liver instead of a heart. What does it mean? Of course he had a heart, he didn't have a liver and a heart. But as much as the liver, the more you cook it, the more it shrinks and the more tough and difficult it becomes, so was Paro. The more they cooked it, the more difficult it became. He stretched himself more, became more difficult, and he's not willing to listen to any sign from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's not willing to release Am Yisrael. We know that story, and so on and so forth. The more pressure applied to him, the more he resisted. And then, of course, we have the ordeal of the 10 makot, the 10 plagues which HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings on Mitzrayim. And this parasha, this portion of the Torah, we have the first 7, which are Dam, Tzfardea, Kinim, Dever, Arov, Shchin, Uvarad, which are miraculous plagues which HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings on Mitzrayim. These are miracles. As like any other miracle, is above nature. They come out of nowhere in a miraculous way. It comes through a miracle, but manifests itself into translated into our world in plagues. However, it comes against any reason. For example, Barad, the hail that had fire inside of it, whereas the whole Nile turned into blood, the frogs, and so on and so forth. Let's not get into this now. It's not only that those plagues completely separated and affected Egyptians, however, did not affect the Jews. So that was another aspect of the miracle. There's a lot to learn from how those miracles had happened to how miracles do happen now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, until today, interacts with us in a miraculous way. However, we don't always translate it or interpret that in such a way. However, to Makkah, what we call Makkah is a plague, is a disease, and so on and so forth. And I guess anything like that that was spiritual, there was hitchaskut, strengthening. They need to strengthen themselves, and there is, of course, a spiritual element to them. So the question is, why do we need Eser Makot, the 10 plagues, in order to take the Jews from Mitzrayim? And what is the core essence of this week's parasha that we're learning? Some of you guys from Ezra heard some of it when I talked to you, but we're going to expand more on that. We'll stretch it a little bit more and pull it, so hope it's not too boring for you guys. Am Yisrael is already 210 years under the ruling of Mitzrayim. Of that, as we said this week on Tuesday, 80 under extreme slavery of Mitzrayim. And here comes your Chazara. As we said, no slave ever escaped Mitzrayim. Nobody ever left Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was a place that you went in, you enslaved yourself, and didn't come free. And which was a miracle by itself, because Mitzrayim had no walls around it. It wasn't a city that was fortified by walls and barricades and so on and so forth. It was open. And yet nobody left Mitzrayim. the reason is because there was a mental the slavery of Mitzrayim not only was physical you can break, however, the mental slavery of Mitzrayim was the biggest form of slavery, and people were not able to break that. And because of this mental slavery and enslavement that the Egyptians put upon anybody who was an Egyptian, it was impossible. It couldn't be a reality that someone will try to break away from Mitzrayim, because you occupy their brain, you take over their logic. They can't think as a free person. They could walk, but it was impossible. The Siftei Kohen, the Shach, the guy who wrote the Haggaot on Shulchan Aruch, on his Haggaot of the Torah, has something very interesting. He says, throughout all the parashiot of Sefer Bereshit, when Egypt, Mitzrayim, is mentioned, it says Mitzrayimah. Now, we know, Sam, where are those? Give me the pens. No, the markers. Yeah, give me one.
The one, the small one?
No, that's fine. We know that in Hebrew there are open letters and closed letters, okay? So how do you write Mitzrayim? You start Mitzrayim. You can see it over there? You see? You start Mitzrayim with a mem, right? And then you end with a hey, Mitzrayim, right? So you see from here that the mem is open and the hey is open. So throughout Sefer Bereshit, when Avraham Avinu or anybody of that matter that went to Mitzrayim could enter Mitzrayim and also could go out of Mitzrayim. So he says like this. However, in Sefer Shmot, it always says Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, that you can always enter, but the mem is closed and you can never come out of it. Once you're in, you're in. You are. That's it. As it says, that everybody entered, became a slave, and they were here, close this. Do I have it? Now, in Kabbalah, that state of mind that you entered Mitzrayim and then you couldn't get out, it's called a complete sealment, confinement of the lights, of the orot. And it says, stima muchletet, it's a complete clog. It's like toilet, like a clogged drain. It's not going anywhere. You don't need a rotor-rooter for that. You need to have a plumber who's going to take the whole thing down and then put a new one up. Completely. No lights could escape. Egypt, Mitzrayim, was like a black hole. Anything went in, nothing goes out. Swallows everything within. Now, so the question is, why HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs 10 plagues? And why does he need to intervene, which is a very unique aspect? HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not intervene in nature. HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself in such a way, intervene with nature, in 2 times. Bereshit, in the beginning, Genesis, when he created the world, intervened, and in Mitzrayim. We do say those things in Kiddush. Zikaron le'maaseh Bereshit, zecher le'yetziat Mitzrayim. A commemoration, we give a testimony by making Kiddush Shabbat to the existence of God. How? Through Maaseh Bereshit, the acts of creation, and the release from slavery from Egypt. There's going to be one more time in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu would expose himself to such a thing. Besides Matan Torah, it's going to be one more time, and that's when the final, in the end of days, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reveal himself in such a magnitude that Mount Olives is going to split into 2. Some people, they told me they didn't want to bury it in Mount Olives because they said, we will be buried just when it's going to open, we're going to fall down. So they didn't want to be buried there. But that's going to be the 3rd time. First time, Maaseh Bereshit, creation. Second time, Mitzrayim. Zikaron le'maaseh Bereshit, zecher le'yetziat Mitzrayim, tchila le'mikroi kodesh, and so on and so forth. So of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need that. The question, why does he need it so on? Of course, it is also to teach Bnei Israel a very important lesson. And what is that lesson that we are talking about? And that lesson is called Midat HaEmunah, the measurement of Emunah, measurement of belief, of faith in God. Le'amin is to believe, but le'amin is also faith. That word in Hebrew holds within itself many aspects of what we call faith. But that belief in faith. Why? Because in the merit of that emunah, the merit of that faith, of that belief in God, Bnei Israel were redeemed from Egypt. Otherwise they weren't. Excuse me. And the 10 plagues came, according to some opinions, to implant that emunah, that belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the hearts of Am Israel and in all aspects of life of the Jews. So the Jew would not come to think, I only have to act Jewish at home, outside I'm not, or outside I am and home I'm not, or only in this and not in that. When you are a Jew, when you are a believing Jew, it's in everything that you do. Every action that you do should reflect your belief and your faith in God. Very difficult task. However, it's possible because HaKadosh Baruch Hu had implanted that in all of us, which is really amazing. Chazal tells us there are 3 different levels of emunah, 3 different levels of faith or belief. There's emunat hamoach, the brain, emunat halev, ve'emunat ha'evarim, the limbs. Hey, I didn't bring it. I forgot. Like this, you have to come one more time. I was rushing, it was a crazy day today. Now, what is emunat hamoach? Emunat hamoach will refer to intellect. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. It makes sense. I do my cheshbon. 1 + 1 = 11. And so on and so forth. It's intellectually, it makes sense. That's emunat hamoach. It makes sense to do that. So there are people who their interaction with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is only on an intellectual level, or the interaction with Judaism is on an intellectual level. So that's a moach. It doesn't make sense, I don't do it. Makes sense, I do it, and so on and so forth. There are certain people who are afraid, the emunat ha'evarim, the limbs, they're afraid. I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to get punished. Right? So that's why I have to do it through my limbs. I'm afraid to get smacked. I'm afraid of Gehenam, I'm afraid of... So that's through the limbs, through the Evarim. And there is emunat halev. It's in my heart. It's in my heart. It's not in my... I'm not doing it because it's intellectually right or intellectually makes sense. I'm not doing it because I'm afraid. I'm doing it because it's in my heart. I believe. I'm a Jew. I believe it. That's what a Jew does. Which one is the best?
Heart.
What do you think?
You need both.
Heart. What you say?
You need both.
You're right.
You balance them. You balance your...
You need all of them. You need all parts of them. You have not been here for decades, but you're going to be here today and going to be here Sunday, Bezat Hashem, right? You better. You need all of them. You need all of them because certain things you would need to make sense to you. Certain things you do it blindly because that's your emunah, and certain things you have to have it out of fear. You have to have all of them. If you have one over the other, you can't. There's going to be something missing in you. Those 10 makot came to implant that emunah in all aspects of our life, in all forms of emunah, in everything. So we would not have doubts. On all levels we would see, interact, and relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In all levels of faith. By the way, I'm going to tell you something. What really defines, what defines us different than the nations and the rest of the people on the planet? What separates us? The mitzvot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah. What did you say? The rain?
Brain.
Brain? No, everybody has brain. Sometimes they have more brain than us. No, absolutely not. They're people just like us, and we are people just like them. The only thing that separates us from them is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the Torah, and we do the mitzvot. That's why, again, Rabotai, try to prevent yourself from saying the word. Anything, if somebody asks you, what are you? Say, I'm a Jew. You're not Yeshivish Jew, you're not Hasidic Jew, you're not Sephardic Jews, you're not, I don't know, whatever is out there, you know? Mizrahi, Ma'aravi, Tzfoni, Dromi, Ma'aravi, Panal, you know, nothing. I'm a Jew. That's saying I'm a Jew. We're divided, I'm a Jew. Because a Jew does mitzvot. A Gentile doesn't do mitzvot. A Jew does mitzvot, therefore you're a Jew. Any title you put next to the Jew means that you're not operating on all three levels of Judaism. You're missing in some of them. I'm only Jew in the heart, I'm only Jew in the brain, I'm only Jew in the limbs, and so on and so forth. I'm a Jew, which include everything. The three levels of that. So, still, we had last week also. Then Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Am Yisrael, based on what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, and they says, Habibi, lech mipo, leave me alone, lo rotzeh, let me sleep, lo chpat li, I just leave me alone, do me a favor, go, Moshe, go, please. And the Torah tells us that the reason why they do so is very simple. Mikotzer ruach, mi'avodah kasha. Well, I just told you last time 3, that's why I put 4. Kotzer ruach, avodah kasha, chomer, and levanim. Kotzer ruach, let's translate this one by one. Kotzer ruach, impatience. They didn't have time. Avodah kasha, hard work. Chomer, material. Levanim, bricks. So, one has to do with the other. It's very simple. Kotzer ruach, they were impatient. They were completely impatient. That impatience that a person has creates tremendous damage. Why are you impatient? Why do you feel that you're entitled to be impatient? You'll get what you get whenever you should get it. Whatever you need to get, you will get whatever time it was prescribed to you. Then why is that to be impatient? Wait in line. Somebody told me years ago, maybe like 30 years ago, the biggest averot that were done in the history of mankind was caused because impatience. Whether it was eating the apple, Adam HaRishon could not wait. It was just like a few minutes before Shabbat. He couldn't wait. Impatient. And Bnei Israel on the mountain. He couldn't wait. 40 days. Okay, 40 days, a countdown. 10, 9, 8. Where's Moshe? He's not here. All right, build an egel. Let's build a golden calf. Right, let's go. Well, impatient. He's coming. Loud. He's an old man. It takes time. You know, they probably had to call this, what's the name? What do you call this? Accessibility. You know, those guys that come with the van. You know, it's like, they gotta wait. No malasot.
Call Uber.
Huh?
Call Uber.
Call Uber, yeah. He should have taken Uber. I cannot tell you. He did it, by the way. Uber. Donations for Yeshiva. No. Just free advertising. But seriously. So Kotzer, they were impatient. Moshe, can you take us out now? Yes or no? No? Okay, goodbye. Get out of here. It's a big tikkun. Avodah kasha, kushiyot. Remember, we said kushiyot. You have too many questions. Questions are good. However, questions are good only when you are interested of hearing the answers. When you ask questions, just so you could push away what you need to hear, these are bad questions. There are too many kushiyot, as I said. Chomer refers to clay, which they used to put mud, they used to build it. Chomer, however, is materialism. They were immersed in materialistic tendencies. They were swamped with it. They didn't care. Again, how many times have I told you that? If Mashiach comes today, right now, right here, right now, says to you guys, I have a certificate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Va'ad HaRabbanim of Shamayim, right? Of heavens, says hereby to certify that Mr. So-and-so is picture, like this, he is the Mashiach, the one and only Ben David, and please listen to whatever he says, this certificate from Hashem, signed Malachim on top, and the whole. So you guys, let's go. Mashiach in you. Habibi, I just built a house here in the Great Neck. Just built a house in Jamaica Mistake. $3 million. I bought a house for $1 million, knocked it down, built another $3 million. Behemet Mashiach, are you crazy? Go, I'll be right there. Habibi, lech. Why? You're immersed in materialistic life. Materialism is an anchor that will pull you down, they will not go. Whether it was in the Holocaust, some people would not escape because they have a house, they had valuables, they had goods, they wouldn't go, or to anything else. Materialism is an anchor. Something that I admire by Native Americans is the fact that the ancient Native Americans, the lack of materialistic tendencies. Whatever they had, because they were nomads, whatever they had, that would be heavy for them to carry, they saw it as a burden. They gave it away. Because you can't be a nomad when you schlep a whole Alte Sachen with you, a whole flea market after you. You can't do it. It's not going to work. So give it away. The more important the item, the faster they should get rid of it. Because then I'm going to start watching it. I'm going to prioritize it. Right? Let's say you have a 15-carat ring. And you have a baby. And your house is on fire. Which one are you going first? You say, oh, well, hold on a second. 15-carat ring, woo, very expensive. A few $1 million. Babies I can make anytime. Okay, forget the baby, let's take the ring. I know it sounds extreme, but many times we do that. Many times we sacrifice our children for materialistic things. Yes, we do that. And levanim are the bricks. The bricks, it was just too heavy. They put it on themselves. They couldn't lift themselves up. Which brings us to our makot, to our case here. The 10 plagues of Mitzrayim correspond with what we call the Eser Makot and Aseret Ma'amarim, the 10 different steps of creation which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Creation of the world would Be'asara ma'amarot nivra olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to say certain things for the world to be created. 10 different things. Also the 10 different trials in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu tried Avraham Avinu and then Am Yisrael as well. We have the number 10 all the time. But why is that? All those, as much as the creation of the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could not have created the world like this. Look, the world was created in 6 days. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the first day this, the second day that, and so on and on and on and on and on. Until the crown jewel of creation, yours truly, man was created. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, listen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is incapable of making the whole world in one zap. You take the whole entire thing, say HaKadosh Baruch Hu, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, poof, everything, trees, world, man, snake, all in one shot. It's impossible for the world to exist if the revelation of God will be in one shot. That's what happened. And then it would shatter. You cannot hold it. For example, let's say you took a Pyrex dish from the freezer, or you took it from the oven, and then you put it in extreme opposite temperature. It will crack, it will shatter. You can't hold it. So is here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself, introduced himself through creation into what we call the world in 10 different stages. Why? So the world will be able to build the resilience to hold its glory and its light intact. Here come Eser Makot, the 10 plagues, and the same thing to Avraham Avinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tried him with this, and tried him with that, and tried him with this one, and tried the other one, and he tried Am Yisrael slowly. But there's one common denominator. The whole thing was to introduce the light, or to bring about, sometimes to bring about back the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that was covered. In Egypt, there is an external husks that cover it around, and there is an internal one. The external klipa, husks, that is called Mitzrayim, which covers you around, and then needed 10 different stages to actually crack that hard coconut. It's almost like a coconut, right? Have you ever seen a real grain coconut? it comes like this big. It's a green shell, and you have to rip it, and you have to peel it, and you have to shred it, and then you get to the coconut itself. And that has this hair, by the way, which makes, if you ever go camping and you're in the Caribbean or something, always makes very good tinder. You could make fire with this very well. So you have to peel this, and then you get to the nut itself. So from this something this big, you get to here, and then you have to break it, and you peel the inside. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to do. Mitzrayim, that what we call Mitzrayim, Egypt, covered the whole entire entity of Am Yisrael, not allowing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to come from within to shine at us. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed 10 different plagues to slowly crack it, because if it would happen in one shot, Am Yisrael would break. And we said, remember, it wasn't to teach the Egyptian a lesson, it was to teach the Jews a lesson. And that's the lesson of Emunah.
Sorry, a Jew shouldn't take upon so many things on himself.
That is true also. There are certain things, you're absolutely right. Let's say, for example, a person is a secular Jew. You're absolutely right. You should not go all of a sudden from this extreme to that extreme. There are certain things that you must do immediately. You're right. If you're a secular Jew, there are certain things you must do immediately, which is Shabbat, Kashrut, family purity. Shabbat, Kashrut, family purity. Let's start with that. Then you start tefillin. You start putting this kind of tefillin. Then you put tefillin on Rabbeinu Tam. Then you start doing this. Then you start doing that. Then let's start keeping kosher. You keep kosher? Yes, I keep kosher. I want Bet Yosef meat. Le'at. Let's go kosher. Then go Glat kosher. Let's go Bet Yosef. But all of a sudden, I only eat if the Rebbe shechted and Habibi. That's not going to happen. Rebbe is dead. Many years ago. Do you know what I'm saying? You're absolutely right. You have to make transitions. And why? Because you were not going to be able to hold it like that. If you're going to go, let's say from public school, let's say you're in public school, all of a sudden, I'm quitting public school, sign me in please to Yeshiva in Israel. I'm going to be learning 24 hours a day. I'm going to put my feet in ice cold water. I'm going to tie my ponytail to the wall. So if I fall asleep, I wake up. Guess what? You might do it. But then all of a sudden, a year later, I'm going to find you meditating in the Himalayas with a Dalai Lama smoking joint all day long. Because the movement is going to be so great. Just like if you ever rode a bicycle or motorcycle for that matter. Don't try it with a motorcycle. And if you do it with a bike, just be careful, right? You go like this, then you let go. And then all of a sudden you go like this, boom, you fall, right? Because the more you try this way, the car wants to go the other way. So when you turn the car or the bike this way, with the velocity that it wants to go this way, plus you're turning, you flip. That's exactly what happens. However, there are certain things you must do immediately. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. That's exactly the reason. You have to commit yourself to something, but then you have to take it. If a guy comes to me and says to me, I don't want to leave everything. I said, Jim, what you were doing now? I was learning half a day in Yeshiva, and I'm learning, and I'm going to college. Okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to continue learning. Okay, up there. But now I want to leave everything. I want to learn 24/7, and so on and so forth. I said, listen, you could, but until then, it's not going to last a long time. You should learn. You should kovi'aitim la Torah. You must establish and designate time to learn Torah every single day. You should strive to learn the whole entire day. But you need to develop this spiritual cardiovascular ability inside of you. If I'm going to take you right now, let's say, who wants to run a marathon? Anybody wants to run a marathon? You want to run a marathon? Good. So I'm going to tell you what, Gabby. You want to run a marathon? That's not a problem. Let's go like this now. Let's go outside. You're going to start running. I'm going to start taking a zapper. I'm going to drive in my car, and you're going to start running. Every time you're going to stop, I'm going to whack you. And it's going to be like real whacking, not like, like real. You're not going to stop. And if you're going to make it, you're not going to make it. You're going to die in the middle. Your heart is going to explode. Your lungs are going to break. You're going to get cramps. You're not going to make it. You want to run a marathon? Not a problem. Let's start. There is a program. There is a plan. It's exactly it, like this to everything. However, there's certain things you have to do immediately. So let's say you want to run a marathon, immediately you have to stop smoking, you have to start eating right, and you have to, I don't know, whatever else you have to do. You're right, to that as well. It's absolutely true. And then again, why, it makes the question even more strong. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who lo chiser be'olamo klum, created the world, and there's nothing that is lacking in this world? Created oceans. What's the matter? You have fleas or something on you? Relax. Created the oceans and the fish in the oceans, the mountains. Is there anything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create in the world and you wanted? Maybe a mate for you guys, but it's still there. Believe me, she's there. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu not create in the world that you think should have been created? Can you tell me one thing? One. Uno.
I know what he said.
Yeah, I didn't hear what he said. What'd you say?
Say it.
Say it.
It's a red unicorn, I think.
Unicorn. we gotta talk later. Why do you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to create unicorn for all the college girls, all the high school girls? I'll talk to you later outside. The symbolism of unicorn in psychology. I don't think you want to hear that. There's nothing HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to create that He hasn't created. Everything is in here. And why does it need 10 makot? HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need this public PR to show the world how strong He is. He doesn't need all these things. He doesn't need all these things. So therefore, remember, as much as Egypt is the external husk that cover us from the outside, this is on the outside. Materialism and so on and so forth, desires, excess sexuality, which was like today you think what's going on in the world is nothing. In Egypt it was worse. It was worse. It's worse. That's the Egypt on the outside. However, there is another thing, a little shmendrik inside that oppresses us. And this is called Paro. Paro is our internal oppressor. Internal oppressor that we all have. That oppressor prevents us from experiencing internal movement. There is the external one, right? That chomer, materialism, avodah kasha, impatience, and so on and so forth, weight, anchoring, this is all outside. Inside, Paro says, I'm not letting you go. I am not letting you go. I'm not letting you go. You cannot move. That internal movement, what we call the spiritual movement, that the internal husk paralyzes us inside and does not let us experience it. If you look at the word Paro in Hebrew, Paro is spelled like this: Pei, Resh, Ayin, and Hey. Paro. That on me. I'm better looking than that. Paro. Now, the word Paro, if you write it like this, in Hebrew you could manipulate it in many ways. You could call it Po. Here it's bad. There is good, here is bad. It could be called Peira, a bad mouth. It could be called Hafra'ah, disturbance. It could be also resemble the word Oref, which means back of your neck. Or the neck, what we call, that's called Oref.
How's the neck?
We'll see. They're all connected. All those things are connected. All those things are connected, and I'll show you why. Good questions. You ask me good questions.
Okay, I think I have a...
Go ahead, tell me.
That Pharaoh, he was... What our goal is to connect our brain and our heart, and it's like a bridge we have to connect with our brain and our heart, like a bridge, so it's connected. He's the neck, what did all the others say?
No, it's different. It's different than that.
I think he's the block of the neck and the heart.
Paro is the block. Paro is not the block between the heart and the head. Paro is the block internally. It will be like he stuffs you up, he paralyzes you inside. You can't move anything. I'll show you how. First of all, with the word pora, here it's bad. There are certain people who are always, always unhappy anywhere they will be. They will sit here, says, oh, it's really bad here. Let me go over there. They go over there. It's terrible here. Let me go here. They're never happy. That negativity is something that you all have to get rid of. You have to become aware of it. You have to get rid of. Oh, never happy. Here is bad. But that here is a state of mind. It's not a location. Because anywhere he goes, he drags it with him. Now look. When things are bad for us, when we feel that things are bad for us, or things are bad, or bad things happen to us, it disturbs the internal balance, the equilibrium that we have. We are going one way, all of a sudden something bad happens, that topples us over, we feel insecure, we feel out of place, we lost our rhythm, we lost our vibe, we are out of balance. When our troubles chase us, and sometimes we chase after our troubles as well, by having pora, it's always bad here. So when our troubles chase us all the time, and we are unable to break away that vicious cycle of problem after problem, or problem after problem, and problem after problem. I do this, becomes a problem. I do that becomes a problem. This becomes good. I go back to it, that becomes again a problem. When I can't break that cycle, what happens to us, our body, it crumbles, it crushes us. Our back bends down. We bend down from the weight. And when we bend down from the weight, what happens right away? You stiffen your neck. And believe me, there are people who walk with a spiritual stiff neck all their lives. Because it's so heavy for them. That paro, what we call the new paro, now I'm taking you into a spiritual journey now. The new paro that came on Egypt, that does not remember Yosef. And specifically says that does not remember Yosef. It's not an analogy regarding a person, a specific person. Yes, I know it says. I'm talking now spiritually. Does not refer to a person. Because if you're going to keep on regarding the paro in the Torah as a person, you're never going to learn about the paro that exists inside of you. So that paro is not an analogy for a person. It's more of a description of a spiritual and a mental state of mind. And what does it mean? And it's very important you are young, and I'll tell you that. Because you haven't experienced it yet, and I hope you won't. But believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Not only I'm better looking, I'm also older than you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you better believe that. Which one, yeah? To the better looking or to the older? Oh, you're without a doubt. See, he's a truthful guy, right? One day, you're going to get older, and it's going to happen to all of you. And you're going to forget that Yosef that was inside of you. Talking about Yosef, where's Bechor? To that Yosef that was inside of you. That young voice, that free voice, that believes in his way and does not care how much people would laugh at him and what people would say about him. Which is amazing. When you are young and you're a teenager, right, you might do all kind of crazy thing to yourself. And you think that you are the best thing ever happened. You look around, everybody's laughing at you. You might walk with like a pink mohawk like that, with earrings like all over here, and I don't know what else you're going to be doing yourself. I mean, honestly, ripped jeans, with all due respect, you got to be, nobody wears ripped jeans, right? Okay. You got to be an absolute moron to pay, I don't know, so much money to buy ripped clothes if you want. You know, I can rip your own clothes for free. And it's cold out, you know. It's like, my understanding, like, hello, you know, so anybody there? You don't care. You have this carbolic. You look like a rooster's comb here. You leave this thing in here like that. You shave here like you look like a cartoon. What's the matter with you guys? I don't care, I look good. Your mother is crying, Chatani, eventually, my son, look what happened. Look at you, how you look. Please don't change your clothes. I don't need your money. Why are you buying used clothes, third hand? Who knows? It's okay, I like it. What happened to this guy inside of you who did what you believe in when you were young and full of life? All of a sudden, you're going to wake up and you're going to be an old gas that smells. If you know what I mean. And that represents the Yosef inside of you that doesn't care. What happened to the youth, to the grace of your youth that was God, to the enthusiasm, to the optimism that you carry as a young. For me, it's unbelievable that a young kid a young guy like you will be depressed or in a bad mood. They'll go celebrate life. Of course, with responsibility. But carry that spirit along with you. All of a sudden you find you guys graduate out of college and everybody straights up a line. Somebody drew a line and everybody aligns themselves according to the line, and everybody gets their gray suit, everybody gets the little thing here, and everybody looks the same, you think the same, you act the same. You are becoming slave. One day you're going to look at the mirror and you're going to say, who is this foreign old person looking at me? I can't even believe. Who is this guy? And that person is you. And that is the Paro inside of you. That Paro who doesn't know Yosef. Yosef represents the youth, the young guy, the joy, the guy who is happy. His brothers laugh at him. He doesn't care. Listen, I'll tell you his dreams. They laugh at him. He don't care. That free voice is lost because of Paro. One day you're going to look and you're going to won't be able to find the reason or the way why have you fell to this trap. And it's a trap that we all put ourselves. You live your life on a trap. You say, oh, lo naimli, I don't feel comfortable doing that. It's not, I don't feel I have to things. I really have to do this thing. I really have to go to this guy's wedding. I know that I really should come to your thing, but I have to go to this one. I have to do this because he did this to me. That's a trap. For example, if I want to throw a wedding and I want to spend $150,000, that's my choice. Does that mean that you have to now pay me back based according to what I wanted? So now let's do ahead. Oh, there were 500 people there, $150,000 divided by this. Okay, so therefore, if I go with my wife, I have to bring X amount of money. That's a trap. I have to. I don't feel lo naimli. I don't really feel comfortable with that, and I'm still doing this. You're going to come to your life, and that's how you're going to live your life. Based on these excuses that you're going to make throughout your life all the time, where you lose the thing, I don't want to do that. When you were young, you can come to a wedding of your cousins, wearing a tank top and an earring. Yes, one day you're going to be a CEO, a CFO, a UFO. But, you don't care. But what happened to that when you grew up? All of a sudden, you're going to tell me you've been mannered, you've been polite, you became smarter. No, you lost your youth. You lost your grace, the beauty of youth. And believe me, ask every old person. He will tell you how wonderful it is to be a young guy. How wonderful it was to do this. He still looks with his eyes of the young person, but he forgets it is the old man. He could have given you everything to go back 50 years to become 20 years old. I guarantee you that. And that's the trap that we always fall. The trap that I have to do this. We collected throughout our life so many have-tos and must-tos that it becomes a burden on you that prevents the internal joy. How many of you, and you are falling into this trap, slowly like quicksand, slowly swallows you. How many of you had traveled in the United States? Take a trip. Broaden your horizons. How many of you feel that right out of high school you got to run into college, and out of college you got to run into a job, and after that you're going to get married, and after that you're going to have a certain amount of kids and a certain amount of job, and you can't retire unless you're going to be 60, 70. Well, what happens if you want to retire and you're 40? And you have to do this, and you have to do that, and then you reach to 67, and then you reach to 70, and then you start counting the years. You're 75 years old. How many more years do you think do I have to live? 5 years? 10 years? 80 years? How many years do I have to live more? And you're waiting to die. So why did you bother coming to this world? You haven't moved anywhere. You were a slave. You were a slave. You are resisting what we call in Hebrew chayut, livelihood. Resisting livelihood is an amazing thing. Mainly because we enslave ourselves to so many opinions and so many desires of other people that are completely strange to our own mere existence. So we develop this internal oppressor, that individual private paro, internal of us, that turns off our livelihood. It turns it off. It does not allow this fire of livelihood glow inside of us. So on the outside, we have the husk of Egypt that covers out, and from the inside, we have this little paro that simply chokes all the oxygens. If you have a candle and you put it into a cup, if you cover it, it will light, but then it will suffocate. That paro suffocates the oxygen that we need inside for the burning, for the light to come, to show, to glow. We don't have time to be romantic. We don't have time to love. We don't have time for anything. We don't have time to live because our livelihood is being denied. And again, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our livelihood, a chayut shelan, the reason why we are alive is because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu represents life on earth. And life on earth represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, denying your internal life, your internal livelihood, is really denying HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That paro, and not for nothing, by the way, the paro, the Gemara refers to paro as a midget. Well, in certain aspect, it was a midget. In certain aspect, he was a giant, right? Right? You say he was 2 feet tall, but yeah, let's leave it at that. But not for nothing, there is an analogy that paro was, yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? That paro, explain to the guys later on. Not for nothing, the Gemara says that paro was 2 feet tall. No, he was a midget. It wasn't this. Why? Because that paro that exists inside of us as well is also a small midget. However, since we are empty inside, it makes a lot of noise. It echoes great inside of us. It echoes great inside of us. And what are we empty from? We are empty from emunah. We don't have emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, remember, the 10 makot came to enhance the emunah inside of us, and the emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that not only, yes, He can, but yes, we can. That we could believe, that we could become free. We do have hope. And a person that does not have hope is a person that doesn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Again, that's what we said. A person who kills himself, commits suicide, is not buried along the gravesides of Jews. Is buried outside. What do you mean you gave up hope? There is God in the world. How can you give up hope? How come you deny life? Denying life is denying HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why when HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, Natati lachem, I gave you good and I gave you bad, and you should choose life. Et ha'chaim ve'et ha'mavet. I gave you. You should choose life. Choose me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't call it life. Call it me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we deny life, we deny the joy of life, we deny livelihood, we in a way pushing HaKadosh Baruch Hu from our lives. And then we say, I give up hope, what can I do? Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like me, so I give up hope, so I pushed him away. And in order to get rid of this, we need to do something. However, to get rid of this paro that makes so much noise, we need to, which is a habit, by the way, this paro that we acquired, we said it's a habit that we acquired. And it acquired and nourished for many years. We can't get rid of it immediately. It has certain ingredients that we need to have to do so. To get rid of old habits and bad habits, we need determinism and commitment. We need to be determined to stick to the goal, to stick loyal to the mission, and to be determined and committed to the mission of killing this doubt, this paro inside of us. And this has to, as they say, it has to be in your blood. All the Makot in Mitzrayim came to teach us not only plagues that Kadosh Baruch Hu chose. There was a reason, because it has to be in your blood. The Tzfardaim were against Kaas, anger. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow because it's a little late now. And so on and so forth. The darkness, Choshech, it was the darkness that we don't see. We refuse to see the light, and so on and so forth. Bara, without getting it, every Makkah comes to teach us to fix something internally inside of us. Nobody can break this paro because it stays there forever. You can't break it. However, you can win it. You can win it, very simple. You need to first of all understand that living life like that, living life according to this paro, harms you. It's not good for you. Like smoking a cigarette. You need to understand that it's bad. So I'm not smoking because I understand that it's bad. You need to understand that you make a decision to take the management of your life to your hands. You need to be responsible to your own life. You can't dump the responsibility for your life, for your actions, in the hands of somebody else. It's nobody's fault but yours. There's even a Led Zeppelin song like this. Nobody's fault but mine. It's a good song. You must understand that. You need to understand that unless you're going to stop making all these false calculations on false profits that you're going to make, why, and the calculation that we make is to justify why we should still be slaves. Because if I'm going to be free, and by the way, that's why the Torah resents a slave that doesn't want to become free. We take his ear, we slash it on the door. Why should I be free? It means I have to work. It means I have to worry about my medical insurance. I have to worry about this. Now, who needs this? Let me be a slave. Let my boss take care of it. No, you don't need that. You need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Better if you make a penny that is yours than $100 of a hand-me-down. You need to be independent. You need to be free. You need to understand that in order to get rid of this paro, you simply need to give it up. It's very simple. You need to give up. This paro exists inside of you because you allow it to exist inside of you. You need to give up. It says, listen, I don't want to be a slave anymore. I want to be free. I'm going to start thinking like a free man. I'm going to act like a free man. That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu says to us, the first mitzvah that you as a nation is going to keep is going to be what? It's going to be your calendar. You can't worry about somebody else's calendar. You're going to worry about your own. You have to have your own identity. Until we're not going to do that, we're still going to be slaves to Paro, B'Mitzrayim, until this day. And that's what we say in the Haggadah all the time. Rabotai, don't give up your freedom. Take your life to your hand, kick some booty, and be free. Shabbat Shalom.